Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. It's a brand new week. And if you're in Washington, you probably know that the legislature is busy in Olympia. We have a bill that we've been talking about extensively since it dropped in December. That is Senate Bill 5068. And I am thrilled to bring you one of Washington's constitutional sheriffs who has been outspoken about this bill. And we're going to get into really what this bill is going to mean for law enforcement. So without further ado, please welcome Pierce County Sheriff Keith Swank to the video, to the live stream today. Keith, thank you so much for taking the time out today to have this discussion. I know that you have got a very busy county that you're running there. But this is a really bad bill. And as you know, all of the Senate Republicans voted for this bill, and it will most assuredly pass through the House. Please, I'd like to hear from your perspective as a top cop, as the sheriff of Pierce County. What do you see the potential issues with this? How is this going to impact law enforcement as a career, as a what am I trying to say? How will this affect you as a department, and how will this impact the citizens of Washington State?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me today. I'm going to talk about my perspective of this 5068. It would allow anybody who is in the United States, any non-citizen in the United States who is legally working here. So that doesn't mean a green card holder. That means anybody with any type of work visa or anything like that. They would be able to be a law enforcement officer. Now, I have serious concern about non-citizens conducting law enforcement, police work on citizens. I have concern about them arresting citizens, using force on citizens, up to and including deadly force. I just can't fathom a non-citizen shooting and killing a citizen of the United States. I don't even know where this comes from, the ideas people would even think that this might be good. And so sometimes people say to me, well, they could serve in the military. And I say, absolutely. If somebody wants to come to America and serve in the military, that's great. Then you can earn your citizenship. But in the military, they're not arresting citizens and taking away constitutional rights like we do in law enforcement. That being said, this is also for judges too. I do not believe a judge should not be I believe all judges should be citizens also, because they are locking people up, taking away their constitutional rights. So, in short, anybody who has the ability to take away somebody's constitutional rights should be a citizen of the United States.
I completely agree with you. And one of the things that you kind of touched on when you started out is that being able to work legally in the United States, they can be a refugee or an asylee. They can have that status. Is that correct?
Yes, they could have that. What's really interesting, Julie, and I know you're up to date on all this stuff because you keep your finger on the pulse here in Washington. Here we have a legislature who continues to pass anti-Second Amendment laws for law-abiding citizens, but they circumvent the federal law and say people who are non-citizens who aren't allowed to have guns by the federal Constitution will be able to have a gun. Isn't that the craziest thing in the world too? So we'll allow them to have a gun, to use force on American citizens up to including deadly force. It just doesn't pass the smell test for me.
Not at all. And I was watching the House Community Safety Committee put an amendment on Senate Bill 5068, specifically addressing the firearms issue, because they need to make it legal for immigrants or non-citizens who get hired as law enforcement. They need to make it legal for them to be able to carry firearms while they're on a job. So how would that work if you had someone on your unit that was a non-citizen, and so they can possess a firearm and carry a firearm when they're on duty, but then they have to check it in and they can't touch a firearm in their personal life? How does that work? And who's going to manage that?
Yeah, yeah, right. So you check it in, give it to me at the end of the shift, and I'll lock it away, and then come see me the next day, and I'll give it to you, hand it out. That's just one of the problems with it, and with not being able to carry it legally anyhow by the federal law. Then we're going to go and break a federal law and let them carry guns. And if I want to break some Washington State whack code, they'd be after me about it, right? But this is different because there's an agenda here. We all know that there's an agenda. They use the excuse of we can't hire enough people, so we have to expand our horizons and give these people, they're non-citizens, the opportunity to be police officers. But what really is going on is they're making things tough on police officers, so police officers don't want to work here in this state
Right.
because they're afraid if they do something, they'll end up in prison.
Yeah, and that's been going on for several years in Washington, specifically with the legislature, where they've had this whole agenda to reform policing and defunding police, and they've passed a number of policies that make it really difficult just to do your job. And so, how do you recruit people when you have a police force that you're not actually allowing them to do their job, and they're actually at risk sometimes if they're doing their job of retaliation.
Yes, we have an Office of Independent Investigation that's going to be enforcing, or I should say, investigating officer-involved shootings. They're already out doing that. They try to make it sound like it's some independent office and everything will be fine. They'll give independent investigation, but that's not the case because I've
Right.
already gone through what they do. They don't share information. We were just involved in a officer-involved shooting here in Pierce County, and Pierce County Force Investigation Team took it over. I didn't even know if the suspect was alive or dead because they won't even give information to me because the law says they're not allowed to give information to me, the sheriff of Pierce County, to know what's going on there. So all of that stuff is already problematic. It's causing issues with transparency. The community comes to me and says, "What's going on?" I tell them I don't know. They think I'm lying to them. Then I have to tell them, "No, it's the law. I'm your sheriff, and I'm not allowed to know what's going on at all." That is absolutely unacceptable. What's going on?
Yeah, it's unacceptable and it's insane. And one of the things with this particular bill that troubles me so much, uh, and you and I have been connected for a few years now, on social media and things like that. So we tend to cross paths a little bit. So you probably know this about me, is that I view legislation as a web. No bill stands on its own. It's all connected to something else. And one of the things I mentioned to you in our text conversation yesterday is that bill to decertify your elected sheriff in the county. And then once that sheriff is decertified, then Bob Ferguson's criminal justice committee, or whatever they're called, would get to fill that vacancy. So if we have non-citizens on your police force, could one of those non-citizens be appointed as sheriff?
Yes, if the sheriff is removed, if I was removed from office, however they did it, now don't get me wrong, I won't leave. I'm just letting you know. If I was removed from office, they would be able to appoint a sheriff, so they could appoint anybody they wanted to. So they could appoint a non-citizen. If I were to even resign my position right now, the executive of Pierce County would appoint the sheriff. So that's how that stuff works. It's interesting though that these politicians want to make sure that there's rules and regulations that me running for sheriff have to follow, but nothing for them, right? So in
Right.
that legislation also, I would have to qualify to be a sheriff, tell them I want to run. They would do a background check, WSP on me, and then determine if they would allow me to run for sheriff or not. Can you imagine? Can I run for state office? Well, let me see. I'll let you know if you can or not after I review this. They wouldn't stand for that, would they? Nor should they.
Right. Right. Well, and what's interesting in Pierce County, and I really thought it was, an act of God that you were elected to sheriff, because the whole count, for the most part, on the Pierce County Council and things like that, you have a lot of radical left politicians that have been elected to office. And so having a constitutional sheriff in Pierce County is, I don't know if people know what a huge deal that is, but that is really important. I think the sheriffs, and we learned this in COVID, right? I was in Snohomish County and had Sheriff Adam Fortney, who really stood up against some of the stuff Jay Inslee was doing. And so we saw during COVID how critical our sheriffs are to upholding our constitutional rights as citizens.
Yes, absolutely. So just so that your listeners out there understand this, Pierce County Sheriff's Office is the largest elected sheriff's office in Washington State. The King County Sheriff is appointed. Right. We're the largest. We also have a jail. King County doesn't have a jail. So, I mean, we have a super huge, it's a really big deal. We police this people in Pierce, and you're right. The council went farther to the left. And anybody that knows me knows that I ran for office before, and everybody that was against me would label me a right winger. So me winning this election is a really huge deal. I, being on the right, is the biggest election of anybody won in the state decades. So it's huge. Therefore, after me away too, right? So they meaning the left, they don't want me being in this position, even though I uphold the Constitution for everybody, regardless of your political persuasion. And they know that I would do that. I stand for everybody, policing, constitutional policing, abiding by the Constitution. I respect that for everybody.
And, you've been involved in politics. I don't know how, you run for office before, and I think you've been involved at a party level in the GOP. And so, you're very, familiar with the dynamics within the party, and you have, sort of your establishment and your conservatives and things like that. And you hear a little bit from, I'll just say the establishment side, Rhino, whatever you guys want to call them. They'll say, well, this isn't really that bad, and we really have bigger issues that we should be concerned about. I think this is terrible. I think this is really bad. And at what point are we allowing foreign interference to really take over our government through these law enforcement offices? I don't are people just missing the big picture? What is, I always try to think about what's behind people supporting a policy like this, Republicans supporting a policy like this. Do you have any thoughts on that? Just maybe from your personal perspective?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sometimes it's cutting out, but I know I think you have my perspective on it, why they voted for it. So here's the deal. WASPIC, Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, support this bill.
Yes.
I don't agree with them at all. I am a member. I just became a member in January when I got elected. I tell them my opinions about stuff, but we have a lobbyist there. I'm kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. I think getting it to later on, but I believe many of our state senators believe that because WASPIC supported this legislation, that it was good. So now they understand that it's not good. There's other legislation, like WASPIC is also behind. Oh yes, we should have qualifications for sheriffs. We'll agree to that. Well, when you agree to qualifications and then they get to vet who the sheriff is, there won't be sheriffs like me around able to run anymore, because they'll say, oh no, he doesn't meet the qualifications or whatever, right? So WASPIC has made errors, in my opinion, and so it's caused the errors to be made by the Senate. I'll tell you this, the House Republicans will be voting on this, whatever the House version is, and there won't be very many of them that vote for it, because they know what's going on now and they've heard about it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because Democrats run, but we still have to fight it, though. Yeah, sorry.
Absolutely. And I think a win on this bill would be if there was a party line vote in the House. I think that would be we got the messaging out there. They understand why it's bad. And the Republicans are willing to hold the line. And then, it's got this big amendment on it. So it's going to go back to the Senate. And hopefully, when it goes back to the Senate, all the Republicans will vote against it. And it's interesting that you brought up the lobbyist, because We were opposing this bill from the get-go. We had people signing in against it in its very first hearing, and then it's, when it was heard again in the House, and like almost 1,000 people in the first hearing and almost 2,000 people in the second hearing. And it's kind of demoralizing because it's those silly conservative ladies. They don't know how to read bills.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. You don't know how to read bills. You pay attention. But see, I told people too that I have to apologize. I didn't know about the bill until after the vote was taken, and then I read about it. But hey, I've had a whole bunch of people get killed since January the 1st, right? I've had a whole bunch of crime
Mhm.
going on here. I took over a whole new sheriff's. It was a department now. Now it's an office. I've been, doing all kinds of stuff. It's not an excuse necessarily. So I'm going to have to make sure you keep me informed about any more of the stuff that comes up. At least ping me on it, because I would have reached out to all these senators and spoke with them about it and told them what's up. And I'm sure me speaking out negatively like this against Waspic, they're going to be upset with me about that too, saying that we represent you all and that's what's going on. But uh, I'm for independent thought and independent positions, and I'm going to stand firm on my position about not hiring non-citizens for law enforcement. That means corrections and for police officers. We're not going to do it. And I'm going to stand firm on that. Yes, I'm going to take some heat. Yes, they might come after me with a lawsuit or whatever, but I'm going to do what's right, because you're right. You said earlier there's a reason why I'm here in this position. I was a retired cop, called back in to do this. And so I don't need to be the Pierce County Sheriff, which makes it all the more important for me to do what I'm doing, because I don't need this. It's not even a job, this elected position, but I'm here to do what's best for our community and our citizens. I mean, I'd rather be in Florida going fishing and playing golf, right? So,
Yep.
yeah, but we're going to work and fight while we're here.
That's awesome. And, I just want to let you know that the comments are blowing up with support for you. And I know just from what I've seen on social media, the citizens are so grateful for your voice. And honestly, Keith, if it wasn't for you speaking out against this, the mainstream media wouldn't have picked it up at all. But it's news because a sheriff is talking about it and opposing it, because as you know, most of the so-called conservative media in Washington is not talking about this bill.
Yeah, right.
So,
Most of them aren't talking about it, and it's made national news, so that's good. I'm not trying to take the limelight, but I want to bring attention to what's going on here. I mean, I really want to have some help here from the federal government, if
yes.
necessary, to come out here and help us sheriffs do what we need to do. I mean, the office of sheriff goes way, way back in our country's founding and all, and there's lots of history there and case law and everything. And I believe that the legislature in Washington State wants to take away our powers and our authority, because once they control the sheriffs, then there's no hope left, because they already control the legislature, the executive's office, the state Supreme Court are 9 Seattle lefties that are on the state Supreme Court. So, they're never going to rule in favor of conservatism or anything like that at all, or um, constitutional rights.
Yeah, well, not many policies come out of Olympia that are constitutional anyway. So, I would like to ask you about another bill. I don't know if you've heard about it, so I might be telling you for the first time. It's House Bill, I think it's 2015, and the bill is for a $100 million grant to recruit new law enforcement officers. But in order for departments to be eligible for these grants, 100% of their force has to go through these, DEI type of trainings. And then if your force does that, then you will qualify for these grants. Just curious how you feel about that. We're a little frozen. I think you're a little frozen. I don't know if you can hear me, but you're kind of frozen. Oh, you're muted. That's what we got going on. Let's see.
Hear me now.
Now I can hear you.
I didn't even touch anything. What I was saying is I didn't hear what you said, but I think the government is shutting down my system right now because I'm speaking out against them. They're probably doing that, right?
It would not surprise me in the slightest. So you didn't hear anything about the bill?
I know about the bill. I don't know what you said after you asked me about knowing about the bill. And I don't think I have a good signal here where I'm at, and I apologize about that. But I did hear about the bill. It was Governor Ferguson's idea to put $100 million into hiring more officers. There's always catches to it. It helps hire them, pays for part of their salary, then you got to pick up the rest of the salary. So, I mean, anything that we can do to help me hire more deputies, I'm all for that. So if there's some
Well,
funds
did
that
you
can help me to recruit, that's helpful.
are you aware that in order for you to qualify to receive those funds, 100% of your force has to be trained in DEI policies?
Well, I guess I don't get any money then. That's okay. We have DEI policies here. It's called the Constitution, and we treat everybody with dignity and respect always,
I love
and
it.
we abide by the Constitution. That's all the DEI you need here. Yeah.
I love that.
So yeah,
That's a great
we
soundbite.
don't.
You've got to record
Mhm.
that when you have a good, when you have a good signal and make a video and put that out because that's good. Um, is there anything I know you don't have good signal and I know you've got a busy job and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Is there anything you would say to, we've got a lot of citizens watching. What can they do to support you, to support your team?
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate all the support. I've been hearing a lot from a lot of people. So, what I would say is reach out to your elected officials, tell them you don't want to have non-citizens be police officers, that you support Sheriff Swank. And then, as things go on, and I'll keep you informed if they meaning the government or whatever starts trying to come after me or remove me from office or decertify me, anything like that. I'll let you know. I'll let everybody know so that you can join and help me out. I always make a joke and say, hey, if it comes to it, I'll just have a big Zoom meeting and I'll swear everybody in as deputies. I'll have a big posse here then if I have to. But you know it's serious though. Somebody might try to remove me from office or do something like that. So I want to circumvent that in the beginning so that people just reach out to everybody as their elected officials, say that you stand behind that, citizens only to be in law enforcement, and that let Sheriff Swank do his job of keeping our community safe because his hands are really full. We got a lot of bad people out there that we need to put away in the jail.
I love that. That is excellent. And I want to say I just put a message up on the screen. This is our Give Send Go link, and in there you can put in the message box you can put Swank. And our organization back in 2021 we did a campaign that we called Bless the Blue, and there was a lot of morale was just really low among sheriff's departments, police departments all across the state, and so we did this Bless the Blue campaign over a weekend. We raised almost $5,000 that we dispersed throughout the state to
Wow.
different departments. And if you would like to donate to us to bless the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, we will get our team out with whatever donations you guys send in. We will go bless them with snacks and treats and gift cards and just a lot of thanks. So you can click on that. You can go to our Give, Send, Go. And if you put Swank in the message box, we will know to put those funds towards blessing the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. And it is, I think it's, one of my very best friends, her husband is a retired Seattle police officer. And she always taught me, whenever you see law enforcement, when you're out and about, just thank them and smile. And a kind word just goes so long. So I would pass that along to everyone watching today and just want to say how grateful, Keith, we are to you for being strong and courageous and being willing to speak out and stand up for the constitutional rights of all citizens.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that I have a positive influence on other sheriffs, other police
Me too.
chiefs throughout our state and the country so they stand up for what's right and do the right thing. So if anybody does that, I'll have done a good job here with my position.
And remind me what is your handle on X, because I know that you do some stuff on X. Is it Swank 4, the number 4 America?
It's I cut out again. Sorry about that. I'm at Swank for America, and it's also called Sheriff Swank now, so you can find it at
Perfect.
Swank, the number 4 America. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank
So
you.
go follow Sheriff Swank on X and give him lots of support and encouragement. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Thanks everybody for watching. Be blessed, my friend, and keep doing the strong work that you're doing. We appreciate you. I even appreciate you from Florida.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Take care.